Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we are going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, the usual disclaimers, and I do apologize if the camera is blurry. I cannot find my special cloths to wipe the glass. It's been a fun day. What can I say? All right. In the description box, if you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign and the campaign against the troubled teen industry, you're going to find all the pertinent links in there. Please, in particular, take note of the article written by NeuroClastic, a small non for profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's so called behavior modification program. The Judge Rotenberg Educational Center does not want you to read that article so much. They have indeed threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit. They did not remove it from the website. NeuroClastic has refused, folks. Read the article, share it on all your social media. You're going to find NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC actually sees through with their threat. Trigger warning. When we discuss places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center and Agape Boarding School for Boys, allergies, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please go ahead and utilize those headphones. This channel is marked trigger warning number 2. Not for kids for a reason. We use profanity on occasion and do speak on dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger and they are watching this, very obviously parental supervision is advised, all right? Okay, so where we left off. My colleagues also invoke the federalism-based interest in construing federal statutes to avoid unduly impinging on traditional state prerogatives, here regulating the practice of medicine. I will go ahead and have you guys go a little bit back in time here. One of the biggest Republican war cries for as long as even I remember, and I'm pushing 40 here, is the whole scream that the federal government is impinging on state rights. What they don't mention, and I'll use this whole situation as an example, is when the state refuses, absolutely refuses, to protect their most vulnerable, even when presented with absolute irrefutable evidence of harm. Advocates like myself then appeal to the federal government in order to intervene because the state is not doing its job in protecting its people. It's one of those things that these folks don't like you to talk about. They don't like you to talk about things like there are certain federal laws that exist for this very exact reason. The Civil Rights Act, for example, is some of the things that we are talking about here. Because if you want to time travel back to the 60s and go ahead and try and tell those people who were fighting horrific oppression and abuse that it should be left up to the states, and they look you in the eye and said, we started with the states. You see what I'm saying here? When we appeal to the federal government and things like the FDA, it is because the state has already failed us over and over and over and over again. And you're not just talking to anyone here, because remember, folks, I have wheeled and dealed with my state leaders for well over a decade, okay? All right? There are times when the state will not move to protect you, no matter what evidence you put in front of them. So, do you expect us to pack up, go home, and say it's a lost cause? Or do you expect us to raise the issue to individuals over the state government's head? Right? There's a reason why we did this. There's a reason why, when the federal government has failed us continuously over and over and over again for decades on end, why we eventually even went above their heads and appealed directly to the UN. Because that's what you do when you are desperate to protect the people you care about. You don't take no for an answer. You lobby and you fight, and you do it on end years if you need to. You do it until your last breath if you have to. Okay? Because that's what I do, folks. When I'm not working on those phones, I am on this 24/7. When people call this my white whale, it's because it's had to be. Okay? And all of us that are a part of this movement will continue to do whatever it is we have to do to get those kids safe and make sure that not another single disabled person or people with mental health issues ever have to be afraid of being sent to a horrific hellscape like this ever again. That's why we do what we do and why we do it the way that we do it. If you can't depend on your state, if they have failed you over and over and over and over again for over 4 decades, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? This is something that Republicans seem to miss time and again and again and again. And let's use another argument right now, folks. Let's talk about abortion laws. And the fact that we've had them repealed from us. Because nobody wants to talk about nuances. Nobody wants to talk about dangerous situations. Nobody wants to talk about the situations where a person with a stillborn child that is still in their womb, that you see what I mean, right? They're like, but it should be a decision of the state. Yes, but what happens when your state fails you? All right. I bring this up because I want to bust this up because I got to do 7 videos like back to back, folks. And I will go ahead and finish this paragraph in the next video. But I wanted to bring that up so you can understand why we had to go to the FDA and go above state head in the first place. Republicans will use state rights to bludgeon down anyone that opposes them. I know because I've seen it. Because I've dealt with these bastards face to face on multiple occasions. What are you willing to do when the state fails you? Are you willing to take the Republican line But states' rights, though, or are you going to fight? Because I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, what I've always done. I'm going to fight until I can no longer breathe. And when I can't breathe anymore and I'm dead, I'm coming back to haunt these bastards until those kids are free. Okay? We're going to close out on that, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do tend to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. I'll see you in a few minutes.